The camera flashes, capturing 4 smiling faces frozen in time. The year is 1978, and the Miller siblings have gathered at their childhood home in Cedar Falls for their mother's 60th birthday. James, the eldest at 32, stands tall and proud with his arm around Michael, 28, whose unruly hair refuses to stay in place despite their mother's best efforts with hairspray. Sarah, 25, is radiant in her flowing floral dress, and little Lily, just 7 years old, sits cross-legged on the floor in front, her pigtails perfectly symmetrical, a gap-toothed smile revealing a recently lost front tooth. One for the family album, their father says, lowering the Polaroid camera. The familiar whirring sound fills the room as the photo slowly emerges. They gather around, watching as their faces materialize on the small square of paper. Lily reaches for it eagerly, but her mother gently stops her. "Let it develop properly, sweetheart. We don't want to ruin it." None of them knew then that this photograph would become the center of a mystery that would haunt them for decades to come. Welcome to Shadow Frames, where we explore the unexplained through the lens of forgotten photographs. Today's story begins with a simple family portrait but unravels into something far more disturbing. 4 siblings took a picture together, but decades later the youngest still hasn't aged. The Miller family seemed ordinary in every way. Robert and Eleanor Miller had raised their 4 children in the modest 2-story house on Maple Street where they'd lived since 1960. Robert worked as an accountant at the local bank, while Eleanor taught piano lessons from their living room. Their lives followed the predictable rhythm of a small-town American family, until they didn't. After the birthday celebration in the summer of 1978, the siblings went their separate ways. James returned to Chicago, where he worked as an architect. Michael drove back to his apartment in Des Moines, where he was finishing medical school. Sarah flew back to New York, pursuing her dreams of becoming a fashion designer. Only Lily remained in Cedar Falls with their parents, continuing her elementary school education and taking ballet lessons every Tuesday and Thursday. Life moved forward as expected. James married his college sweetheart in 1980 and had 2 children. Michael established a successful medical practice specializing in cardiology. Sarah's designs began appearing in boutiques across Manhattan. Their parents beamed with pride at each accomplishment, dutifully relaying news during weekly phone calls between the siblings. 5 years passed, then 10. The siblings would gather for holidays when schedules permitted, watching as gray hairs appeared at James's temples, as laugh lines formed around Michael's eyes, as Sarah experimented with different hairstyles to match the changing fashion trends of the 1980s. And Lily? Lily remained in ballet, excelling to the point where her instructor suggested she audition for a prestigious dance academy in New York. "She's got real talent," the instructor told Eleanor. "It would be a shame to waste it." So in 1988, at 17, Lily moved to New York, staying with Sarah while she attended the academy. The sisters grew close during this time, sharing the small apartment in the East Village. Sarah would later recall this period as the happiest year of my life. But something strange happened, or rather didn't happen. While Sarah turned 35, her face beginning to show the first subtle signs of aging, Lily didn't seem to be changing at all. "It's just good genes," Sarah would tell her friends when they commented on Lily's youthful appearance. "And she's religious about sunscreen." But privately, Sarah began to worry. There was something unnatural about how Lily looked exactly the same as she had when she arrived in New York. The first person to openly acknowledge the anomaly was their brother Michael. During Christmas of 1990, the family had gathered at the old house in Cedar Falls. Their parents were now in their 70s. Their father recently retired. After dinner, they sat in the living room, flipping through photo albums as holiday music played softly in the background. "Look at this one," Eleanor said, pointing to the Polaroid from her 60th birthday. "All my babies together." Michael took the album, studying the photograph. Then he looked up at Lily, who was helping their father stoke the fire. He glanced back at the photo, then at Lily again. "That's odd," he said, his voice low. "What is?" Sarah asked, leaning closer. "Look at Lily in this photo from 12 years ago. Now look at her." Sarah followed his gaze. In the living room, Lily stood in profile, the firelight illuminating her features. She should have been 19, but she still had the same round cheeks, the same delicate features that she'd had at 7. She had grown taller, certainly, and her fashion sense had evolved from children's clothes to the trendy styles of 1990, but her face was eerily unchanged. "Maybe it's just the lighting," Sarah suggested, but there was uncertainty in her voice. "Maybe," Michael replied, but he didn't sound convinced. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, Michael carefully removed the Polaroid from the album and slipped it into his wallet. A doctor by training, he couldn't ignore what his eyes were telling him. Something was wrong with his youngest sister, and he was determined to figure out what. The siblings didn't discuss their concerns with their parents or with Lily herself. What would they say? "Hey Lily, why aren't you aging?" It sounded absurd even in their thoughts. Besides, Lily seemed happy and healthy. She was thriving at the dance academy, making friends, living a normal life, except for the fact that she looked perpetually young. The next time the siblings gathered without Lily was for their father's funeral in 1993. Robert Miller passed away suddenly from a heart attack at 75, leaving Eleanor devastated. After the service, James, Michael, and Sarah sat in the kitchen of their childhood home, speaking in hushed tones while their mother rested upstairs and Lily spoke with guests in the living room. "We need to talk about Lily," Michael said, placing the now faded Polaroid on the table. "This isn't normal." James picked up the photo. At 47, his dark hair was now streaked with silver, his face weathered by years of stress and Chicago winters. "What are you suggesting exactly? That our sister is some kind of, what, vampire?" He laughed, but it was hollow. "I'm not suggesting anything supernatural," Michael replied, his voice tense. "But as a medical professional, I can tell you this isn't normal development. She should be 22 now, but she still looks like she could be in middle school." "She's just blessed with good skin," Sarah interjected, but even she didn't believe her words anymore. At 40, Sarah had embraced her aging gracefully, the fine lines around her eyes a testament to years of laughter and creativity. "I've been doing some research," Michael continued. "There are rare conditions that can affect aging. Progeria causes accelerated aging, but there are theories about reverse conditions that might slow it down." "So you think she has some rare medical condition?" James asked. "I don't know, but I think we need to get her evaluated." "And how do you propose we do that?" Sarah asked. "Hey Lily, we've noticed you're suspiciously wrinkle-free. Mind if we run some tests?" The conversation ended abruptly when Lily entered the kitchen, her eyes red from crying. "Mom's asking for you," she said softly. As they stood to comfort their mother, James glanced back at the Polaroid on the table. For just a moment, he thought he saw something strange in the image, a darkness around Lily that wasn't there before. But when he looked again, it was just a normal family photo, faded with age. The mystery of Lily's agelessness might have remained a private family concern, if not for what happened next. In 1995, Eleanor Miller's health began to decline rapidly. The siblings took turns caring for her, with Lily eventually moving back to Cedar Falls to be her primary caretaker. During one of Sarah's visits to help care for their mother, she was searching through Eleanor's desk for insurance papers when she found a small leather-bound journal tucked beneath a stack of correspondence. Curious, she opened it, recognizing her mother's elegant handwriting. The first entry was dated March 15, 1971. "Robert and I visited the specialist in Iowa City today. The news isn't good. Lily's condition is progressing faster than they expected. The doctor gives her 2 years, maybe 3. How do you tell a child that their life will be so short? We've decided not to. Let her live what time she has in happiness, not fear." Sarah's hands trembled as she turned the page. The next entry was from December 1971. "Lily's symptoms are worse. The headaches come almost daily now. Robert wanted to try the experimental treatment the doctor mentioned, but I can't bear the thought of putting her through that pain with no guarantee of success. There must be another way." Sarah flipped through the journal, her heart racing. The entries became more desperate as they continued through 1972. Her mother wrote about sleepless nights researching obscure medical journals, about seeking out specialists across the country, about exploring treatments that mainstream medicine dismissed. Then, in January 1973, the tone changed abruptly. "We found someone who can help. Not a doctor, but a woman who knows things doctors don't. Robert is skeptical, but what choice do we have? We're running out of time." The next entry, dated February 17, 1973, sent a chill down Sarah's spine. "It's done. The woman said there would be a price, that nothing comes without sacrifice. I told her I would pay anything to save my daughter. She smiled in a way that made my blood run cold and said, 'It's not you who will pay.' I don't know what she meant, but Lily's fever broke today for the first time in weeks. The headaches have stopped. Could it really be so simple?" Sarah closed the journal, her mind racing. Lily had been sick as a child. A mysterious woman had somehow cured her. And what was this price their mother mentioned? Before she could process this information, she heard footsteps on the stairs. Quickly, she tucked the journal into her bag. intending to show it to her brothers when they arrived the next day. But that night, something happened that would change everything. Sarah woke to the sound of whispering coming from her mother's room. Thinking Eleanor might need help, she approached the door, which was slightly ajar. Through the crack, she could see Lily sitting beside their mother's bed. Eleanor's thin hand was clasped in Lily's, and they were speaking in low, urgent tones. Sarah couldn't make out the words, but something about the scene made her uneasy. The moonlight streaming through the window cast Lily in an ethereal glow, making her appear almost luminous against the shadows of the room. As Sarah watched, Lily leaned forward and placed her other hand on Eleanor's forehead. The old woman's eyes closed, and a look of peace settled over her features. Lily remained in that position for several minutes, unmoving, while a strange tension seemed to fill the air. Sarah was about to push the door open when Lily suddenly straightened. She turned her head slightly, and for a brief moment, Sarah thought her sister was looking directly at her through the door crack. But that was impossible in the darkness. "I know you're there, Sarah," Lily said softly, her voice carrying clearly across the room. "You should come in." Startled, Sarah pushed the door open. Lily sat calmly by their mother's bedside, looking completely normal, except for her eyes, which seemed to reflect the moonlight in a way that human eyes shouldn't. "What are you doing?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Helping Mom," Lily replied simply. "She's in pain." Sarah moved closer to the bed. Eleanor appeared to be sleeping peacefully, her breathing more even than it had been in weeks. "What did you do to her?" Lily smiled, and for the first time, Sarah saw something ancient in that childlike face. "I took some of her pain. I can do that now." "Now? Since when?" Sarah asked, thinking of the journal hidden in her bag. "Since I was supposed to die," Lily answered matter-of-factly. "But Mom found a way to save me." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "What are you talking about?" Lily tilted her head, studying her sister. "You found her journal, didn't you? I can see it in your thoughts." "My thoughts?" Sarah took a step back. "Lily, you're scaring me." "Don't be scared," Lily said gently. "I'm still your sister. I'm still Lily. I'm just something else too." Before Sarah could respond, Eleanor stirred in her sleep, murmuring incoherently. Lily turned her attention back to their mother, placing her hand on Eleanor's forehead again. "She's dreaming of Dad," Lily whispered. "She misses him so much." Sarah backed away from the bed, her mind struggling to process what she was witnessing. This wasn't the sister she knew. This was something else wearing Lily's face. "What happened in 1973? Sarah asked, her voice shaking. "What did Mom do?" Lily didn't look up from Eleanor. "She found someone who could save me. A woman who knew how to transfer life force. Mom didn't understand what that meant. Not really. She thought it was just some kind of alternative medicine. But it was much more than that." "Transfer life force? What does that mean?" Now Lily did look up, and her eyes seemed to hold depth that no young person's should. "It means I don't age because I don't need to. I can draw what I need from others. Just a little, so they never notice. Like sipping from a stream without disturbing the water." Sarah felt nausea rising in her throat. Are you hurting people?" Lily looked genuinely shocked. "No, I would never. I just borrow a little time from everyone around me. A minute here, a second there. Not enough to harm anyone, but enough to keep me as I am." "And Mom knew about this?" "She suspected, I think. She saw that I wasn't aging normally. But she never asked, and I never told her the full truth. I think she was afraid to know." Sarah's mind was reeling. The sister she had grown up with, the sweet little girl who loved ballet and collected stuffed animals, was something inhuman, something that fed on other people's life force. "Does anyone else know?" Sarah asked. Lily shook her head. "Just you. And now I need you to keep my secret." She rose from the chair, moving with a grace that seemed too fluid, too perfect. "Because I do love you, Sarah. I love all of you, and I don't want to have to choose between my secret and my family." The threat was subtle but unmistakable. Sarah felt fear coiling in her stomach. "I won't tell anyone," she whispered. Lily smiled, once again looking like the innocent sister Sarah had always known. "Good, because I think James and Michael are already suspicious, and that could become problematic." The next morning, Sarah found herself unable to look Lily in the eye as they prepared breakfast together. Her mind kept replaying the conversation from the night before, trying to convince herself it had been a dream or a hallucination brought on by stress and grief. James and Michael arrived shortly before noon. As they sat in the living room discussing their mother's care, Sarah found herself studying Lily, looking for any sign of the otherworldly presence she'd sensed the night before. But Lily was just Lily. cheerful, attentive, seemingly normal in every way, except for her unnaturally youthful appearance. When Lily went upstairs to check on Eleanor, Sarah found herself alone with her brothers. This was her chance to tell them what she'd discovered, to show them the journal, to warn them about what their sister had become. But Lily's subtle threat echoed in her mind. What would happen if she told them? What would Lily do? "Sarah, are you okay?" James asked, noticing her distracted expression. "You look like you've seen a ghost." The irony of his words almost made her laugh. "I'm fine," she lied. "Just worried about Mom." Michael, ever the observant one, narrowed his eyes. "There's something you're not telling us." Sarah hesitated. The journal felt heavy in her bag, a secret burning to be revealed. But fear won out. "It's nothing," she said. "Just didn't sleep well last night." That evening, Eleanor took a turn for the worse. The hospice nurse they'd hired said it wouldn't be long now, maybe a day or two. The siblings took shifts sitting with their mother, talking to her even though she was mostly unconscious, reminiscing about happy memories from their childhood. During Sarah's shift around 3 in the morning, Eleanor suddenly opened her eyes, more lucid than she had been in weeks. "Sarah," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "My Sarah." "I'm here, Mom," Sarah said, taking her mother's frail hand. "You know about Lily, don't you?" Eleanor's eyes were clear and focused, piercing through the dim light of the bedside lamp. Sarah nodded slowly. "I found your journal." Eleanor closed her eyes briefly, a tear slipping down her wrinkled cheek. "I didn't know what would happen. I just wanted to save her. Any mother would have done the same." "What exactly did you do, Mom?" The woman called herself a healer. She lived outside of town, in that old house by the quarry. People whispered about her, said she practiced old magic. I didn't believe in such things. But Lily was dying. Eleanor's voice cracked with emotion. The doctors had given up. What choice did I have? What did this woman do to Lily? She performed a ritual, used herbs and candles, and spoke words in a language I didn't understand. She cut Lily's palm and mixed her blood with something in a cup, made her drink it. Eleanor shuddered at the memory. Lily screamed so loudly I thought she was dying right there. But then she stopped and her fever was gone, and she looked refreshed, like she'd just woken from a good night's sleep instead of being at death's door. "And the price?" Sarah asked, remembering the journal entry. "What was the price?" Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. The woman said, "She will never grow old, never die of disease, but she will need to feed her life with the lives of others." I didn't understand what that meant. I thought it was just mystical nonsense. She gripped Sarah's hand with surprising strength. But then I noticed she wasn't aging like she should, and people around her, they would get tired so quickly, like their energy was being drained. "Did you ever confront her about it?" Eleanor shook her head weakly. "I was a coward. I didn't want to know the truth, but I've watched her all these years, seen what she can do. She's not evil, Sarah. She's still my Lily. She's just different now." "Has she been taking your life force?" Sarah asked, the question that had been haunting her. "No," Eleanor replied firmly. "She gives me hers, eases my pain. She's been keeping me alive longer than I should have lasted." Her eyes drifted to the door, and Sarah turned to see Lily standing there, watching them with an unreadable expression. "It's time, Mom," Lily said softly, moving to the other side of the bed. "You don't have to fight anymore." Eleanor smiled at her youngest daughter. "My miracle child," she whispered. "Promise me you'll be careful. Promise me you'll use this gift wisely." "I promise," Lily said, taking Eleanor's other hand. Sarah watched as Lily closed her eyes, a look of concentration on her face. The air in the room seemed to thicken, and Sarah felt a strange pressure in her ears. Eleanor's breathing became more labored, then slower, more peaceful. "What are you doing?" Sarah asked, alarmed. "Helping her let go," Lily answered without opening her eyes. "It's her time, Sarah. I've kept her here as long as I could, but she wants to be with Dad now." As they watched, Eleanor took one final peaceful breath, and then was still. Lily opened her eyes, which shimmered with tears. For a moment Sarah thought she saw something pass between them, a faint luminescence that flowed from Eleanor to Lily, but it was gone so quickly she couldn't be sure. "She's gone," Lily said simply. Sarah felt grief wash over her, but also a strange relief that her mother's suffering had ended. She looked at Lily across their mother's body, seeing both her beloved sister and something ancient and unknowable. "What happens now?" Sarah asked. "Now we mourn," Lily replied, "like any family would." But they weren't like any family, Sarah realized. Not anymore. The funeral was held 3 days later. James and Michael were stoic in their grief, supporting each other and Sarah through the service. Lily remained composed, accepting condolences with grace that seemed beyond her apparent years. After the burial, as guests gathered at the house for the reception, Michael pulled Sarah aside into their father's old study. "There's something not right about Lily," he said without preamble, "and I think you know what it is." Sarah felt her heart rate quicken. "What do you mean?" Michael ran a hand through his graying hair. "I'm a doctor, Sarah. I notice things. The way she moves, the way she seems to know what people are thinking before they speak, and the fact that she still looks like a teenager when she should be nearly 25. Sarah remained silent, torn between her promise to Lily and her loyalty to Michael. "I found Mom's old medical records," Michael continued. "Did you know Lily was diagnosed with a terminal brain tumor when she was 2, and then mysteriously recovered with no medical intervention? Michael, and then there's this." He pulled out the old Polaroid from 1978, now laminated to preserve it. "Look at her eyes in this photo. Really look." Sarah took the photo, studying it carefully. At first, she didn't see anything unusual, but then, as she tilted it under the light, she noticed a strange reflection in Lily's eyes. Not the typical red eye from flash photography, but something else. Something that looked almost like a glow emanating from within. "What is she, Sarah?" Michael asked quietly. Before Sarah could answer, the door opened and Lily stood there, still in her black funeral dress. "Talking about me?" she asked, her voice light but her eyes serious. Michael didn't flinch. "Yes, actually. Care to explain why you don't age like a normal person?" Lily sighed, closing the door behind her. "I wondered when you'd finally ask directly." She moved to the window, looking out at the guests mingling in the backyard. "Mom found a way to save me when I was dying. A way that had, side effects." "What kind of side effects?" Michael demanded. "I don't age. I don't get sick." Lily turned to face them. "And I can influence the life force of others." Michael stared at her, his scientific mind struggling to process her words. "That's not possible. And yet, here I am." Lily spread her hands. "Living proof. What does that mean, influence the life force?" Michael asked, his voice tense. "Are you hurting people?" "No more than time itself hurts them," Lily replied cryptically. "I take a little from many, not enough to harm anyone, and sometimes I give back, like I did with Mom. I kept her comfortable until the end." Sarah saw the struggle on Michael's face, the rational doctor fighting against the evidence of something beyond rational explanation. "I need to understand," Michael said finally. "Scientifically, I need to run tests to document this." Lily laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Always the scientist, Michael, but some things can't be explained by science. Some things just are." "Then help me understand," he pleaded. "If what you're saying is true, this could revolutionize medicine, could save countless lives. Or it could turn me into a lab rat," Lily countered. "Dissected and studied until there's nothing left." The tension in the room was palpable. Sarah felt caught between them, understanding both Michael's scientific curiosity and Lily's fear of exposure. "No one would hurt you," Michael insisted. "I wouldn't let them." "You couldn't stop them," Lily said softly. "Once the world knew what I am, what I can do, they'd never leave me alone." She moved closer to Michael, placing a hand on his arm. "Please, brother, let me have my life. Let me be Lily." Sarah saw the moment Michael's resolve weakened, saw something pass between him and Lily, that same subtle transference she'd witnessed with their mother. I understand," Michael said, his voice suddenly tired. "You're right. It's not my place to interfere." Lily smiled, removing her hand. "Thank you." She turned to Sarah. "Both of you. This means everything to me." After she left the room, Michael slumped into a chair, rubbing his temples. "I don't know why I was so worked up," he mumbled. "She's just Lily." Sarah stared at the door where their sister had exited, understanding with terrible clarity what had just happened. Lily hadn't just persuaded Michael. She'd altered his thoughts, taken some of his will along with a bit of his life force. The realization sent a chill through her. How far would Lily go to protect her secret, and what would happen to those who threatened it? The years following their mother's death brought changes for all the Miller siblings. James retired early from his architectural firm to focus on painting, a passion he'd neglected for decades. Michael scaled back his medical practice, citing burnout, though he seemed to have aged more rapidly than normal. His once dark hair now completely silver, deep lines etched into his face. Sarah's fashion career flourished, with her designs featured in major magazines and worn by celebrities. She married at 45, surprising everyone, including herself, to a kind literary agent who adored her. And Lily? Lily moved to a small town in the Pacific Northwest, where she opened a wellness center specializing in energy healing. She kept in touch through occasional phone calls and holiday cards, but rarely visited. When asked why, she would simply say, "It's easier this way." In truth, Sarah suspected Lily was trying to protect them. By distancing herself, she reduced the amount of life force she might inadvertently draw from her aging siblings. It was Sarah who maintained the family connections, organizing reunions every few years. James and Michael would always attend, bringing their spouses and children, reminiscing about their parents and their childhood in Cedar Falls. Lily would sometimes make an appearance, always with an excuse about why she couldn't stay long. During one such reunion in 2008, for James's 62nd birthday, Sarah arranged for a professional photographer to take a new family portrait. 30 years had passed since that original Polaroid, and she thought it would be meaningful to recreate the image. James now walked with a slight stoop, his artist's hands gnarled with arthritis. Michael, at 58, looked closer to 70, his health having declined mysteriously over the past decade. Sarah, at 55, had embraced her age with grace, her silver-streaked dark hair framing a face lined with years of laughter and occasional sorrow. And then there was Lily, who should have been 37 but still appeared no older than 17 or 18. She wore her hair differently now, and her clothes were contemporary, but her face remained unchanged. The same smooth skin, the same bright eyes that had gazed into the Polaroid camera 3 decades earlier. As they posed for the photo, Sarah noticed the photographer's confusion as he looked from Lily to the rest of them. "Your daughter?" he asked James, gesturing to Lily. "Sister," James corrected with a tight smile. "Our youngest sister." The photographer's eyebrows rose, but he said nothing more as he adjusted his camera. "Everyone say, family." The flash captured them. 3 aging siblings and 1 forever young, a portrait of impossibility. Later that evening, after James and Michael had retired to their hotel rooms, Sarah and Lily sat on the balcony of Sarah's apartment, looking out at the city lights. "It's getting harder to explain," Lily said, breaking the comfortable silence between them. "People see the 4 of us together and do the math." Sarah nodded. "What will you do?" "What I've always done. Move somewhere new, start over, become someone else." "And what about us? Your family?" Lily turned to look at her, and in the dim light, Sarah could see the weight of years in her eyes that didn't show on her face. "You're why I keep moving. To protect you." "From what?" "From me," Lily said simply. "From what I am. Michael's health isn't a coincidence, you know. I tried to be careful around him, but his curiosity, it made him vulnerable. Every time he tried to understand me, to study me, it created a connection I couldn't fully control." Sarah felt a chill despite the warm evening. "Are you saying you're responsible for his condition?" "Not intentionally," Lily said, her voice heavy with regret. "But proximity to me over time, it takes a toll, especially on those who try to see beyond the surface." "Is that happening to James and me too?" Lily hesitated before answering. "Less with James. He accepts what he sees without questioning too deeply. But you, Sarah, you know too much. You've always seen too clearly." Sarah thought about her recent health checkup, about the doctor's surprise at certain test results that suggested she was aging more rapidly than normal. "So loving you is killing us?" "Not loving me," Lily corrected gently. "Knowing me, being close to what I truly am." "And what are you, really?" Sarah asked the question she'd avoided for decades. Lily gazed up at the stars, her expression thoughtful. "I'm not sure there's a word for it. Not vampire or demon or any of those gothic labels. I'm just different, changed by what Mom did to save me." She looked back at Sarah. "I've searched for others like me, found a few. Some born this way, some made. We're rare, but we exist." "And do you all feed on life force?" "We all need it to survive, yes. Some take it violently, leaving husks behind. I've never been like that. I take just enough, spread widely to sustain myself without causing harm. At least, that's what I tell myself." She reached for Sarah's hand. "But I think that's a lie I can't maintain anymore. Not after seeing what's happening to Michael." Sarah felt tears welling in her eyes. "So this is goodbye then? For real this time?" Lily nodded slowly. "After tonight, it has to be. For your sake, for all of you. But you'll be alone." "I've been alone for a long time, Sarah. Even surrounded by family, I've been alone." Lily squeezed her hand. "But knowing you loved me, even knowing what I am, that's been my greatest gift." They sat in silence as the night deepened around them. 2 sisters connected by blood, and separated by something beyond understanding. The next morning, Lily was gone. Her hotel room was empty, the bed unslept in. She left no note, no forwarding address. She simply vanished from their lives as completely as if she'd never existed. The years continued their relentless march forward. Michael passed away in 2012, his body seemingly worn out decades before its time. The doctors were baffled by his accelerated aging, with one specialist comparing his cellular structure to that of someone 30 years older than his actual age. James followed in 2018, peacefully in his sleep. His art had gained recognition in his final years, his paintings of ethereal, ageless figures hanging in galleries across the country. Sarah, now the last of the Miller siblings, or so she thought, lived quietly with her husband in a small coastal town. Her health, too, had declined more rapidly than it should have, but she found a strange peace in understanding why. On her 70th birthday, a package arrived. Inside was a framed photograph, the recreation they had taken at James's birthday reunion 15 years earlier. A note accompanied it, written in Lily's distinctive flowing script. "My dearest Sarah, I hope this finds you well, or as well as can be expected. I think of you every day and regret the years we've lost. But it was necessary. Look at how much longer you've lived than our brothers. Distance was the only gift I could give you. I want you to know I've found a purpose for what I am. I work in a hospice now, using what I can do to ease the suffering of those at the end of their journey. I take just a little of their pain, their fear, and in return, I give them peace. It feels right somehow. A balance. The photo enclosed is for remembrance. 4 siblings frozen in time, though only one literally so. I love you, sister. Always, Lily." Sarah held the photo, studying the 4 faces, 3 marked by time, 1 eerily preserved. She thought of the original Polaroid from 1978, wondered what had become of it after Michael's death. That night, Sarah dreamed of Cedar Falls, of the old house on Maple Street, of her mother's piano playing in the background as 4 children ran through sprinklers on a hot summer day. In the dream, they were all young again, all equal in the perfect democracy of childhood. She woke with tears on her cheeks and a strange sensation in her chest. Not pain, but a lightness, as if something had been lifted from her. 3 months later, Sarah's husband found her in her favorite chair by the window, a peaceful expression on her face, the framed photo of the 4 siblings in her lap. The doctors called it natural causes. A gentle passing, they said, as if she simply decided it was time. The funeral was small, attended by a few friends and former colleagues from the fashion industry. No family remained, or so everyone thought. As the service concluded and the attendees dispersed, a young woman lingered by the grave. She appeared to be in her early 20s, dressed simply in black, her dark hair falling in waves around a face that somehow seemed both youthful and ancient. Sarah's husband approached her, curious. "Did you know my wife?" he asked. The young woman smiled, a smile tinged with sorrow and something else, a wisdom that seemed at odds with her apparent age. "She was my sister," she said simply. He frowned, confused. Sarah didn't have a sister. Her brothers passed years ago and she was an only daughter. She had a sister, the young woman insisted gently. Once upon a time, before he could question her further, she placed a small object on top of the fresh grave, a faded Polaroid photograph, protected in a clear case. Then she turned and walked away, her figure soon lost among the gravestones. Later, when Sarah's husband retrieved the photo, he studied it curiously. 4 smiling faces from another era. 3 of them he recognized as younger versions of Sarah and her brothers. The 4th, a small girl with pigtails and a gap-toothed smile, he didn't recognize at all. He turned the photo over. On the back, in faded ink, someone had written, "The Miller siblings, James, 32, Michael, 28, Sarah, 25, and Lily, 7. Mom's 60th birthday, 1978. He did the math in his head, calculating what that would mean. If this Lily had been 7 in 1978, she would be in her 50s now. But the young woman at the grave couldn't have been older than 25. As he placed the photo in his pocket, a chill ran down his spine. For just a moment, he thought he felt something, a slight dizziness, a brief weakening, as if something essential had been gently drawn from him. But the sensation passed quickly, and he dismissed it as grief playing tricks on his mind. Somewhere in the distance, a young woman walked away from the cemetery, her steps light despite the burden of memories she carried. She would move on, as she always did, find a new place, a new purpose, new people to care for in their final moments. And sometimes, in the quiet hours before dawn, she would look at old photographs and remember a time when she was simply Lily Miller, the youngest of 4 siblings, before she became something time could not touch. The camera had captured them that day in 1978, Four siblings with their whole lives ahead of them. None of them could have imagined what those lives would become, or how differently they would experience the passage of time. Three grew old, as humans do. But the fourth, the youngest, remained unchanged, a mystery wrapped in human form, walking through decades like others walk through rooms. In the end, perhaps that was Lily's true curse. Not that she didn't age, but that she remained to witness the aging and passing of everyone she loved, an observer to the natural cycle from which she had been removed, forever watching from behind a youthful face as the world grew old around her. This has been Four Siblings Took a Picture Together, but decades later, the youngest still hasn't aged. Brought to you by Shadow Frames. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe for more tales of the unexplained. Remember to share your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll see you in the shadows next time.